Recorded Books presents 12 Miles Below, The Frozen Realm, a progression fantasy epic, by Mark Arrows, narrated by Scott Aiello. Chapter 1. Only a Nightmare. You have about 3 minutes to live if you fuck up and get your suit punctured. The old engineer fussed over a few metal toolboxes on his bench, pulling out the contents, explaining as he went. First few seconds, frostbite sets into the local puncture area. After that, the freezing temperature leaks in and overpowers the suit's rebreather, usually around the 1 minute mark. Better be holding your breath by that point. You die the moment you can't. It was hard to see what he'd been doing since the workbench was made for grown-ups. I craned my head over the lip of the table to get a better view. He pushed the toolbox away. Most adults can hold their breath for about 2 minutes while under stress. Factor that in, and that's why it's roughly 3 minutes before lights out. He brought his elbows onto the table, lowering his head so he was more at eye level with me. See why folks beat around the snow, telling you kids what's out there? You're 10. They'd rather you go be a brat and play with your friends. Leave the worrying to the adults. Everyone said it's really bad if something happened outside the heated clan bunker, and then they'd shoo me away when I asked them how bad. Anari was, as he put it, too old to care about keeping secrets. He'd tell me about whatever I asked. So, ever since I found him, I'd been sneaking past the house guards and making my way to his workstation, deep in the bowels of the colony. Anari grinned. Now, here's a challenge for you. How would you patch up the environmental suit fast enough to beat the timer? I frowned as I thought. A couple of ideas floated to my head, but none of them seemed to fit. So I did what I do best. I looked for a way to cheat and get an edge. I'm betting he'd pulled everything out for a reason. The answer was probably on his workbench. A square piece of suit fabric caught my attention. A patch? That didn't seem right. Sewing took a long time. Also, I didn't see any needles or thread anywhere on that table. A patch with a sticky surface? You're close, but there are some issues with that answer. His hand picked up that piece of fabric along with a spare knife. Imagine you're having a nice stroll outside and your suit gets a rip, like this. The tough material took him a good moment of struggling to tear through with the knife. Now, in most cases you'll be panicking and not thinking clearly. A patch needs too many steps for your groggy mind to handle. We need something faster and easier. He set down the knife and picked up a strange, fat gun off the table, flipping a switch on it. That's where this comes in. Catch. I caught the heavy gun thing with a slight fumble. Welding lines held together different parts, and string tied a circuit chip to the side. The barrel was way too fat compared to sidearms and rifles. Looks weird. Does it really shoot bullets? Nope. It has been modified to fire out superheated glue. It's a hot glue gun. He cackled as if this was the world's funniest joke. You going to glue the suit back together? I said, stunned. That's stupid. He ruffled my hair with a wide smile and took the weird gun back from my hands. Well, if it's stupid but it works, then it's not stupid. And boy, does it work. Fast on his feet, he turned on his chair and fired a snotful of glue at the rip, almost point blank. All done. He patted the cloth where the glue had sunk into the tear, and it had already hardened over. Easy. See? That'll hold off the environment for a few hours. More than enough time to limp back somewhere safe. While I poked the strangely repaired rip, Anari got out of his chair and reached for something large on the top shelf. A spare environmental helmet. It had been built oddly. A glass dome acted as the faceplate for the massive helmet. Normally, helmets were made with goggles instead, making them harder to break than a massive glass dome. I think he kept that defunct model because it looked weird. When he lifted the helmet off the shelf, the bulky thing knocked down a small avalanche of tools. Rat shit. I'll clean this later. Then he paused as if an idea crossed his mind. Actually, he said, rubbing the white whiskers of his beard like a villain might, I think I'll apply my God's-given privilege again as the only adult here and have you clean this mess for me. He chuckled darkly. Last time, the lazy adult had tricked me into cleaning up the workstation for him in exchange for lessons on welding, but I'd had a lot of time to stew in my bed and prepare. A well-designed plan was put into action. Wait! I turned, then scrambled on top of a stack of crates. Once stable, I positioned my hands in...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?